everybody. This is Brian.
Jason.
And this is the Perfectly Screwed podcast. We're about ready to talk about David Parker Ray, Part 2, the Toy Box Killer. Where we left off last time, if you haven't listened, by the way, to episode 93, please go back and do that because that's the first part of that.
Because this dude's psycho.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were going to talk a little bit about his arrest and...
he's elaborate. He puts a lot of thought into the way he tortures and kills.
Yeah. Well, truthfully, they never proved that he killed anybody.
Well...
I mean, to be fair, clearly he did. But
right.
To be fair, they can't prove that he did.
Right.
I mean, right before he died, he actually admitted to killing people and said he was going to show them where the bodies were buried and tell them, and then he died of a heart attack, so he couldn't
prove that I ate 3 double cheeseburgers last night, but I did. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though you can't go to court and prove that he killed anybody, like, we all know he did.
Were they McDonald's cheeseburgers?
No, I was just throwing a...
Oh!
I didn't really. But you can't prove that I did. Or didn't.
I can't prove that you didn't. Yeah.
They would have. If I actually did, they probably would have been. I like to get the 2 cheeseburger value meal myself.
Oh, yeah, that is good. Yeah.
I like the single burgers because, like, the double, that's just too much. Whatever.
My favorite is White Castle.
Oh, God. Yes.
White Castle. Unfortunately, the closest White Castle is in Kokomo, and that's about, a little far from me, so I don't get it very often. But occasionally I make a nice little trip. And
it's a treat.
Yeah, and unfortunately, though, the problem is when I do get White Castle, I get, like, the 20-sack, and I just way go off of any kind of diet I was thinking about having.
Well, yeah, because no matter how many you get, they're all going down.
Yeah. Well, I eat
all
as many
the drive
as I can.
back from Kokomo to
Yeah.
Marion, they're gone. If you get 20, they're gone. If you get 40, they're gone.
Well, I try.
I like them damn chicken ring sandwiches.
Oh, yeah, those chicken rings.
You got to get a couple of those.
Fucking shit. Well, they had a deal not too long ago where you got like 20 White Castles and chicken rings and fries. It was like a huge family meal, and I got it for me and the kids. Yeah, I ate most of it, though. I'm not going to lie to you.
You get don't get me wrong. It's not like pulling up to the drive-thru at White Castle, but the frozen ones that you cook in the microwave, they're not terrible.
They're not terrible, but they're not good either.
Well, it's like White Castle isn't good.
It's kind of like, okay, the frozen White Castles are like jerking off. It'll get you there, but it's not as fun as...
It's a fair analogy.
Yeah. So where were we? Okay, his arrest and the investigation into what happened. So when we talk about David Parker Ray here, we're going to start out with a chick named Cynthia Vigil. And Cynthia Vigil was abducted from an Albuquerque parking lot by Ray and his girlfriend, Cindy Hindi. She was taken there
What a great name.
Yeah, I know, Cindy Hindi, yeah. She was a freak too, boy. Because not only did she meet Ray at a party, but then, he said he was down for sadomasochistic shit, and she's like, hell yeah, and they were partying together, fucking each other, and he was torturing her. And then he got tired and bored of her, so she was like, well, let's abduct people. And he's like, yeah, I abduct people. And she's like, hell yeah, let's get down.
You're going to have a hard time, if you're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, finding a guy who hasn't had his dick sucked by Cindy Hindi. You know what I'm saying?
Well, right now, Cindy Hindi's probably...
Oh, Cindy Hindi? Fuck yeah, I know Cindy Hindi. Kidding me? She fucking blew me, then fucking shoved a bunch of shit up my ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Real weird.
Yeah.
Sure can suck a dick.
So anyways, they took her to Elephant Butte, this Cynthia Vigil. They confined her to the trailer and tortured her.
The trailer is the toy box.
No. The trailer's where they live. The toy box is the cargo trailer kind of semi thing they rigged up. But so they tied her up and they handcuffed her to a bed inside their trailer that they lived in, and then they tortured her and raped her. After 3 days of captivity, they told her they were going to take her to the toy box, but they never did. She was tied to this bed in this trailer where David Parker Ray and Cindy Hendy both raped her repeatedly. Cindy Hendy with different toys, David Parker Ray, raped her while Cindy Hendy watched and, tortured her in various ways. So, Vigil actually escaped from the trailer on March 22nd, 1999. The way she escaped was she waited until David Parker Ray had gone to work. And Hendy was sitting in there mentally torturing her, talking shit to her, fucking, pinching her nipples, shit like that, because Ray was at work.
Yeah.
Well, while she was doing this, she got a phone call. Hendy did. Now, since she was absent-minded, clearly at this point, she left the keys to this chick's chains and the handcuffs on a nightstand near her because she had to run and get the phone. So she went and ran and got the phone. And at that point, Cynthia, got the keys off the nightstand and unlocked herself. So she unlocked herself. She's coming out of the bedroom trying to get the fuck out of this trailer. So Hendy sees her. She hits her with the phone. Fight ensues. Cynthia got the best of her, though. Beat the shit out of this bitch and took off.
Right.
During the struggle, Hendy actually broke a lamp over Cynthia's head. But Vigil had grabbed an ice pick off the kitchen counter and stabbed Hendy in the neck with it.
Nice.
When Vigil fled, she was wearing only a slave collar and the padlock chains, completely nude. Slave collar around her neck, dragon chains running down the highway.
Man, you don't see that every day.
No. So she was running down the highway. No one would stop for her. They thought she was some crazy, cracked out bitch. They were like, no.
Right.
No.
Right.
And so she finally ran to a homeowner's house and just busted in the door. Like she knocked, They opened the door, she busted in. And as soon as they saw her, they were like, oh my God, what the fuck's going on? And she said, call the police, call the police.
Right.
So,
just sitting at home, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, next thing you know, some crazy naked chick with a dog collar on busting your house. Like, call the cops! Fucking call the cops, motherfucker!
Right. That's why you don't just pop in places. You try to let people know, you're coming over beforehand. Cause
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nobody likes to just open the door. And
also, you don't know whose house you're popping into. I mean, like, if she popped in your house, you'd have been like, well, the party's on!
Right. Oh,
party's on!
Oh, my, thank you, God!
Yeah! That's what I've been asking for!
Like, damn, you work quick.
Yeah!
But, like in her state of mind, though, you know what I'm saying? Like, at this point, like, what am I going to do? Bust in a house, somebody I don't know, and they're going to be a sadomasochistic motherfuckers who are going to rape me repeatedly. You know what I mean? I have nothing to lose here.
Yeah, that just happened. So, what's another 3 or 4 rapings?
The thing I find real fascinating, though, sorry, we get right back to it here after this thought.
No, go ahead.
How you can abduct someone, have them tied and chained up in your home, where you've been brutally raping and torturing them, and I still have the mindset to get up and go to fucking work, dude.
Yeah, like it ain't no big deal.
Like it's a struggle for me to not hang myself from the rafters every day at work any fucking way.
Yeah, Ray's just like...
Can you imagine that on your conscience?
He had no conscience, clearly.
Clearly.
A guy like this does not have normal mental processes that we do. He couldn't. I mean, can't.
That's nuts, man.
I mean, to think I just raped and tortured a bitch, and that's a normal everyday thing that's going on.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be way past gone.
Right. And like, what do you? Yeah, because you're at work. Like, man, fuck this place. I can't wait to get off work, go home. You know what I mean?
Rape this bitch
Fucking
again.
kick back, fucking, yeah, I got a bitch tied up. I'm just been raping the fuck out of her.
Oh, yeah. Gotta have me a nice beer and then, go in there and just pinch her nipples and rape the shit out of her again.
Jesus.
So anyways,
It's crazy.
when she called the cops, she led them to the trailer. And obviously that instigated the capture of Ray and his accomplices. So, once Ray and Hindi were both in custody and it was released what they were doing, another victim came forward, Angelica Montano, and she had the exact same story as Vigil. She said she'd been held captive by Ray after Hindi invited her to the house to pick up some cake mix. Then she was raped and tortured. She convinced the pair to release her along the highway in saying she would never tell anybody.
They released her?
Yeah. Well, listen to this. She was picked up by an off-duty law enforcement officer, a police officer. She told him what happened, and he said he didn't believe her and left her at a bus stop.
Are you kidding me?
I swear to God. She also later, the next day, called the police about the incident, but they also said they didn't believe her and hung up on her.
I wonder what. I wonder if this bitch had like a history of like.
Well, she was a prostitute.
Oh.
Most of them were. Yeah. Then police identified another victim, Kelly Garrett, from videotapes which dated from 1996. See, David Parker Ray not only did this, but he videotaped all these women that he was doing it to in the toy box. So when they busted in the toy box, they found whole stacks and stacks of videotapes dating back all the way to the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to wrap my mind around. Yeah. These cops completely discard, like, just because you're a prostitute doesn't mean you deserve to be raped and tortured, right?
Right.
But in the eyes of the law enforcement, it fucking does.
Well, see, they found Kelly Garrett.
We don't believe you.
From a tattoo on her ankle. And she testified she got in a fight with her husband, was spending the night playing pool with friends, when Ray's daughter, Jessie, who knew Garrett, took her to the Blue Water Saloon in Truth and Consequence, Mexico. She then drugged the beer she was drinking. She offered Garrett a ride home, but instead took Garrett to Ray's house.
Wow.
She endured 2 days of torture before Ray drove her back home and dropped her off in front of her husband's house.
Now Ray doesn't even have to go out and abduct anybody. He's literally got deliveries.
Yeah, his daughter's helping him, yeah. So David Parker Ray told her husband when he dropped her off at her house that he found her incoherent on a beach wandering around naked. Her husband did not believe that she did not remember where she had been. And Garrett said she didn't know what to tell police. So she didn't contact them because she was afraid her husband would divorce her. Well, her husband sued her for divorce anyways, and she moved to Colorado. The FBI sent 100 agents to examine Ray's property and surroundings, but found no identifiable human remains on the property. While awaiting trial, Ray spoke to FBI profilers and said that he had fantasized or was fascinated by the kidnapping of Colin Stan and other sexual motivated kidnappings. The FBI had actually spoken to Ray as early as 1989 in connection with his business manufacturing, selling bondage-related sexual devices.
What's bonded related? Like bondage?
Yeah, bondage. Yeah. So,
which there's nothing wrong with that. There's a big market there.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, Ray went to trial, And at first, he wouldn't. At first, he said that it was all consensual, that it was all part of a
deal,
like a deal with them. Yeah, he would pay these
prostitutes, I'll
right?
give you X amount of money,
right,
to let me do freaky things to you,
right. Well, and this resulted in a mistrial, so they had to try David Parker Ray again. Now, a week into his next trial, they told him, "This is what's going to happen. We're going to charge your daughter with helping you, unless you admit to what you did."
Oh, nice.
So he, of course, took a plea bargain and was sentenced in 2001 to 224 years in prison.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. For numerous offenses in the abduction and sexual torture of 3 young women at his home.
Needless to say, I mean, it's going to be tough to get out of jail and have any type of life if you're sentenced to 224 years.
Yeah. Well, see, under the deal, they only gave Ray's daughter 30 months for kidnapping and criminal sexual penetration. So she got 30 months because of the deal he took.
So where's Cindy Hendy in this? She survived the ice pick in the neck?
Yes, she survived, and let's see. She testified against Ray, received a sentence of 36 years for her roles in the crime. She was scheduled to receive parole in 2017. She was released in 2019 after serving 2 years of her parole in prison. On May 28, 2002, Ray was taken to Lee County Correctional Facility in Hobbs, New Mexico to be questioned by state police. He had stated that he was going to tell them about all the victims he had killed and where they were, but he died of a heart attack before the questioning could take place.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that is basically your story of David Parker Ray. So he died of a heart attack, but yes, he admitted before he died that he had killed many women. And the thing is, they know he did because a lot of the women on the videotapes they could never find. They only found 3 of them.
Yeah.
And there was hundreds. And he'd been doing it since like forever. So, yeah.
The dude's just, I mean, man.
Now, the little teaser I gave you on the last episode about how he's related to the Boston Strangler. Now, there was a movie about the Boston Strangler on Hulu not too long ago. Did you ever see it?
No.
It's actually pretty good. Good movie. Okay, now, DeSalvo admitted to the Strangler murders, but DeSalvo was never charged with the murders, okay? And I'm not going to get deep into the DeSalvo Boston Strangler case because that's for another episode, but there was a lot of indiscrepancies in DeSalvo's confession. He was wrong about a lot of shit. And DeSalvo was a little nuts, and they kind of focused in on DeSalvo. But there was another person that had very kind of got the police involved in thinking about him for the Boston Strangler murders. And he was an ex-Harvard student. In the movie, they give him the pseudonym Daniel Marsh. But in reality, we don't know what his real name was because the name of the guy was never released because he was never formally charged.
So did Parker go to Harvard?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. This guy was an ex-Harvard student with a history of domestic violence. And David Parker Ray was an ex-Harvard student before he went to the military with a history of domestic violence. And in the case, during the media would always refer to this Daniel Marsh guy as David Parker. He was never physically connected to the murders, but he moved from Boston to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and then to Truth and Consequence, New Mexico.
Right.
So, and when he was in Michigan, there was a copycat murder of the Boston Strangler that took place in the Michigan area a few years later.
I mean, he's not stopping by any town and, you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
going without leaving his mark. I mean, this dude's fucking psycho.
Yeah, no, and this is what a lot of people think about this, is that the person we were talking about is David Parker Ray. And David Parker Ray at least had something to do with the Boston Strangler murders.
Right.
I mean, it was torture of old women, rape, strangling them. It just kind of sounds like David Parker Ray's MO. You know, as a young guy,
Sure.
first starting out as a serial killer, he's got to cut his chops somehow.
Yeah, dude, and I mean, you know how
And then for him to move to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and almost exactly the same murders are happening in Michigan that were happening in Boston, and then all of a sudden he moves to Truth and Consequence,
Yeah.
New Mexico, and you catch him years later fucking torturing a bunch of women and killing them. I mean,
in the way the law works, if DeSalvo is admitting murder, even if you know, fuck, this dude's full of shit,
right.
because you have a confession.
Well, you got to
have a Loctite case. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's the thing. You got a Loctite case. You got a guy admitting to all these murders, and you're trying to break or solve this case. And at that time in Boston, they were doing really bad at solving this case.
yeah,
It was looking really bad for the police department at this time.
right.
So they got this guy admitting to it. They're just going to take the easy way out. And that's what cops do 90% of the time. It's sad to
100%.
say, but
Right.
they do.
Right.
They focus in on one people or one person, and it doesn't matter if the evidence doesn't fit that one person. They're going to make the evidence fit that one person.
100%.
Yeah. Like I always say, speaking of a case like that, you know, Lacey Peterson, right? Scott Peterson.
Yeah.
Do I think he killed her? Yes. Do I think they could prove he killed her? No way in hell. Okay, they railroaded that guy from the beginning to the end. Now, did he kill her? Probably. I'd say 90%, yeah, he probably did it. But that's not how the criminal justice system is supposed to work.
Right.
It's not, yeah, he probably did it, okay. No, it's, can you prove he did it? And I don't think they could.
Right, and that's what, like, dude, that's why I've always said, like, one of my biggest fears, dude, is walking in somewhere and finding someone dead.
Yeah.
Because morally, the right thing to do is to contact the authorities, and you know what I'm saying? But I'm suspect number one now.
Yeah. Well, that's like if you ever are married to somebody and they wind up missing or dead, it doesn't matter if you did it or not, buddy. You're suspect number fucking one, and they're going to try their damnedest to prove it was you.
Absolutely. They're going to
Unless you have an airtight alibi,
they're going to do
you're
everything
fucked.
they can to get you to admit it.
Yeah, unless you have an airtight alibi, it doesn't even matter if you admit it. Unless
No.
there's an airtight alibi, you're screwed. Yeah, if you were doing anything other than working and they can prove you were at work the whole time, you're fucked.
You're in for it. You're in
Yeah.
for the because they're gonna drag you through the.
Yeah. We'll have to get that into that in
Holy
another
shit.
episode.
Fuck that.
But anyways, I hope you guys liked this episode. That was our last episode on David Parker Ray, and we will see you next time.
Later.